Sir? Sir, are you listening to me, sir? Sir, I'm talking to you. Sir.
That's That's
I'm Commander Shepard. This is my favorite stream on the Citadel.
Chris. Sir. Also, I need to add that in as a response. Hold on. I gotta add that to Lumia really quick. Chris. Oh, hold on. Also, I hope you never get tired of me, Indy, because you are now stuck with my emotes for a year thanks to Chris. Just in case you didn't see that. So I hope you like them for a whole year. Because that's what Chris did. What up, Maurice? How you doing, dude? What are you talking? Girl, scroll up. Scroll up. Oh, a Carpenter here gifted you a tier 1 sub. A tier 1 sub.
For 12 months. 12 months.
That does what he did. A whole 12 months. Yeah. Yep. Yep. That's what he did. Yep. Yep. Because he's crazy. But Chris, seriously, thank you so much for another gifted 12 months of subbing. You did it yesterday for Heckarinos. So I appreciate it very much. I gotta turn this up. Doobie 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 doo. Doobie 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 doobie. Hold on, I gotta grab Ree's file really quick. I gotta bring up Ree's file. Doobie 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 doo. Boom. Doobie 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 doo.
Blue seas, clear skies, and boundless possibilities. I dare say our destination will soon be in sight.
Enjoying yourself for a change?
There we go. That was it.
Come now, there's no cause for panic. This one might make for a worthy opponent.
It's on SmackDown. It's better. Oh. Don't freeze on me, please. I still have a lump. I still have a lump like right in here, so it still feels funky. A little funky. Doobie 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 doo. I gotta level up this one at some point too. Part of me wants to go through the whole storyline again. At some point. I guess can't even hear it. There you go. Yeah, it's getting better. I need to get a better chat to hop into there.
Fantasies final?
Huh?
Getting your fantasies final?
My fantasies finaled. Maybe.
I am making your breakfast as you demanded of me.
As I demanded of him. You hear that, guys? As I demanded of him. Give me my mount. Now we gotta put it on here. I gotta move my fat cat. Hold on. Oh, no, it wasn't there. Do boo boo. I'm gonna do that. Look at it. Look at it. It's so pretty.
I'm Commander Shepard. This is my favorite stream on the Citadel.
Why is that going twice? Where is that other thing going? Overlays. Where is it? Alerts. Why?
I'm Commander Shepard. This is my favorite stream on the Citadel.
That's why. Delete. Save. You get to accept a Zeppla?
I'm Commander Shepard. This is my favorite stream on the Citadel.
Oh, Robo! There we go, I fixed it. There was 2 alerts going for some reason. Dear, thank you for gifting your 3 subs. Enjoy your gay horse. Your gay unicorn. It's very pretty. Did I not? Okay. About to be upset for a second. Oh, you know what I need? I need a good mog for this whole area. Someone's actually doing this down here. Wait for me. Oh, it sounds really nice too. You got your horse too? No, I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for this one. I hit it. Yeah. Once you're done vacuuming your place, you want to come over and vacuum our place? No? Okay, I understand. Are you doing anything tonight? Do you have any plans tonight? Oh, we have a Roomba. We have Norby. What am I doing here? There she is. So last we saw, she ran off after the robbers. Hey, Yuzu. Let me get my... Well, you already got one, technically, but... Do I even have this set up? Do I even know how to stream? What even am I doing? What is happening? Yeah, we're just gonna put this on there. Where are ye? Playing the wows of Wowcrafts. Make sure you go follow those nerds, please. And thank you. She was running after the robbers that we fucked up. Or the one girl, and we fucked up the other robbers. Thank you. I don't know what I would have done without you. The bandit managed to get away, but I have an idea of where they're headed. You said they stole something from you? A bracelet. It was a parting gift from Wook Lamont. Oh, we're gonna mess up this person? I see. Close as you two were, I can only imagine how much it meant to you. But what brings you all this way? With the right of succession ended and Wook Lamont crowned the next Dawn servant. Oh, that's the other hype train is done. There's like an internal hype train for Lumia too. I forgot. That's what that noise was. She's ready to stand on her own. I told her as much, and of my plans to return home. She gave me the bracelet that I might always remember our time together.
Lord, your coffee.
My what? Oh, Malort. No Malort in my coffee, please. It filled me with much joy. I wanted everyone to know, everyone to see this wonderful gift given to me by the vow of resolve, and now it's gone. I would have let them take every coin to my name if only they had left me that bracelet. Oh yeah, we're ready to fuck somebody else up. I would ask what you intend to do, but I already know that look. Yep. I'll knock them senseless. It's what Wook Lamont would want. Yeah. I need to change my outfit. Please, you mustn't put yourself in harm's way for my sake. Girl, do you not know? Does anybody not know who we are? Right? Do they just not remember who we are? I can assure you no harm will come to us. We'll make certain of that. Yes, I will. I understand your methods can be brutal, but it would be wise to show some restraint, lest you find yourself on the wrong side of the law. Perhaps I should come as well to be sure all proceeds as it should. I don't know what to say. I can see why Wook Lamont put so much faith in you both. Before anything else, let's see her back to the springs. She'll be safer in town, and with Ayati there to keep an eye on her, we should have nothing to worry about. Thank you, both of you. Just imagine her as like a Midwestern auntie that's thank you both. Smokes like 20 packs a day. I should probably go grab my coffee, yeah. Look, it even farts sprinkles and rainbows. Here, I want to go grab my coffee. You guys watch these guys. Let's see if they actually go actually fight. I'm gonna go grab my coffee. They punch each other out yet? No? Nothing exciting? Okay. This actually isn't a bad outfit for here. We got our boots on. Got our little hat on. Aaronville told me what happened, and you needn't worry about Namika. If those bandits should find us, I'll kick up a fuss and see them driven off. That bracelet meant everything to her, and those bastards wouldn't even care if they knew. Makes me sick. But at least she's safe, and I know you'll set things right. Heck yeah, with my fisties. Oh, we can get shortcake. Hot chocolate, banana blend, shortcake. Ooh, fruit and aloe jelly. Or money. things are getting serious now. The music changed. Let's go recover that bracelet. I have nothing but contempt for these bandits, as this involves a gift from Wook Lamont. We must be mindful of how our actions might reflect upon her. No doubt Namika would find joy in the return of said gift if lives were taken in the process. If it comes to violence, I ask that you stop short of killing them. The rest we can leave to the Dust Watch. Well, that makes sense. Well, now, that makes me think you're strong. Really strong. Are you? Girl. I may have saved the star on one occasion. I like how my ears are sticking out of the hat. You saved the star? That's a bold claim to make, but if true, that certainly speaks to your strength. What do you mean a bold claim to make? How does this not spread across this whole area? If curiosity has been sated, then please indulge mine. Is there anything you can tell us about these bandits? Let's see. Well, of late there's been talk of some unsavory types coming and going from I can't pronounce that, to the southwest. I can't pronounce that. I'm not gonna try to right now. Is that the old mining town that was abandoned? That's the one. Now the Ceruleum extraction's big business. No one wants to waste their time picking at the dried up veins there. Sounds like the perfect lair for bandits. Not to mention the one with the bracelet fled that direction. So you've been investigating the place? I can let the Dust Watch know if you like. No, not yet. It'd be best if we went alone. There's something I'd like to ascertain, if you've no objections. Right then, let's be off. I cannot pronounce any of these names. You guys know where we're going to, so that town.
Shortly.
Tell them.
Crispy. Spam crispy. I know. Like your spam crispy on the outside and gushy in the center.
Describing it as gushy is a little weird. I can't with this man. I cannot with this man. Somebody come get this man. I don't know what it is, but it's very calming just to listen to people craft. Is anybody else the same way? Like, I can sit there in town and just listen to people craft all day. And go, I should be doing that. And then just proceed to sit there, listen to them craft. I should be doing this, however, I'm just gonna sit here. I'm here on my gay-ass mount. Until I hear Lalafell laugh, yes. Oh, no. It seems the bandits have claimed this place for themselves. I love the little do-do-do-do-do-do-do in the background. The timpani sounds so good too. They've made no attempt to conceal their presence. How can the Dust Watch not have noticed by now? Question for another time. First, we must find the bracelet. Oh. I need the forbidden fruit. I need the forbidden fruit. Hope to not get it on this. Thank you. Huh? No. The other forbidden fruit. The fancy stuff. I need the fancy stuff. I need the fancy stuff.
You are not putting that on my.
I need the fancy stuff. Don't stop it. I need the fancy stuff. He gets upset. I don't see the bandit who had it. Perhaps they're in one of the buildings. Ramshackle as they are, it should prove a simple thing to eavesdrop on anyone inside. If you would go and have a look about, I'll keep watch for trouble. I need the forbidden fruit. You're not gonna bring it. I wanna go get the... Listen, I have a few people that get upset with me with how I like my scrambled eggs. It is just my scrambled eggs. It is not the other type of eggs. It's not a fried egg. It's not a poached egg. It's not anything else. It's literally just scrambled eggs. Like some other cultures, I like a little bit of ketchup on my eggs. Only the scrambled eggs. And everybody gets up in arms about how I like my eggs. Especially Steve. Steve and Lula are the two biggest haters. But guess what? They're my fucking eggs. Are you the third one? I know you're the third one. It is only scrambled eggs. Do what makes you happy. If it wasn't really for scrambled eggs, I don't think I'd have a reason really to have ketchup in my fridge anymore. So one bottle lasts us quite a long time. Okay. Can you imagine seeing that coming at you? God, it looks so cool. I will always give Final Fantasy that, is that their stuff just looks really, really dope. Bandits will notice you here. You can safely eavesdrop on it. Any inside? Only an idiot will work these mines with easier money to be had. Now we got a boss who can keep the Dust Watch off our backs. Ooh. Uh-oh. Hey, watch what you say. The wind's got a way of carrying secrets to the wrong ears. Maybe, but who believed one of them sainted souls was running our crew? Uh-oh. The drunk who bought your story about the gold shitting alpaca? Am I right? Gold shitting alpaca. When do we get that mount? When do we get that mount? I can do it better. Get him, Francis. The world may never know. Was that coming with the butt slider? Was that about coming with the butt slider? Probably.
Freedom, he says. The decision is in my hands, he says. Where's my freaking butt slider then?
Hey,
Decision.
hey!
It's so good. Let me out of here, you bastard! Shut your mouth, you sniveling little brat! Make me! I'll get you all back for framing my friends. The vulture, most of all. You can tell him to eat shit! Get shit on! Your ass! Your ass! You're literally ass! Huh, how about we give you the chance to tell him yourself? We'll see how tough you are then. get shit on. Oh, what's up? What's up, bro? How you doing? What's up? What you looking at? What we staring at? What you looking at? Yeah. Okay. Are you just being on the lookout? Are you just looking out for me to listening in on this conversation? Is that what's happening? Is that what we're doing? Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go over there. My chocobo just blends in with the bush here. Okay. My fat cat's just about the same color as the ground. Not suspicious at all. Now I'm gonna go listen over there. Okay. Sounds good. You sure? Get back in there. Get back in the bush. Francis. Stay there. Oh, there we go. I got Francis in the bush. I brought back a prize you're gonna love, boss. Have a look at this bracelet. Beautiful, ain't it? I bet it was made by a famous artisan. You idiot! How are we supposed to move something like this without attracting attention? Boss, please, I'm sorry. Oh, we almost got taken care of. Aw. Reckon we can find a sailor who won't ask questions. Sell it for a song. Here, your reward. And don't bring me this kind of grief again. I won't, boss. Thank you. Stupid hoe. Oh, I need a text. Francis! Come back. Finished, are you? Let's retreat for now. I know these guys don't see anything. They're blind as heck. Were you able to learn anything? Their leader is a man of the Dust Watch? I will explain why these bandits have been able to do what they please. You said they gave the bracelet to him? Seems we have our work cut out for us. Did you hear anything else of note? Sokoa. That's the boy who confronted one of the officers in town, isn't it? So they threatened him to speak with the Vulture, their leader's alias, no doubt. Fitting for a man who preys on the helpless. Well then, not only do we have a better idea of who's behind the recent rash of robberies in Hazui, but we also know he has the bracelet. Did I pronounce it correctly. That was my best shot. Retrieving it without bloodshed will prove difficult, though, if he's that quick to point a gun at his own underlings. You need to get him alone. You're right, if we confront him in front of his henchmen with his henchmen around, a violent outcome is all but guaranteed. I might have a plan. Very Final Fantasy VIII music. There's a small settlement to the southeast here in Luwatanin Yawawasa. The Luwatan in Yawawasa. The water in your asshole. The water in your asshole. Right? Right? I'm telling Lou there's water in his asshole. Meet me there and I'll explain everything. I think I pronounced that perfectly. I think I got that perfect. Is anybody doing it? No? Cactus wants to kill you. If we're to retrieve the bracelet without conflict, it won't be done barge it in through the front door. We'll have to lure him out. To do that, we'll avail ourselves of, yes, dragon-like creatures that live to the south of here. If it's their breeding season, you see, if the males flock to the scent of a female in heat. With a few ingredients and a sample of their feces, I can create really? An attractant that resembles the scent when burned. We can lure them into the bandit's hideout, fleshing out the vulture and his gang. Oh my goodness, we're gonna bring a bunch of horny dragons to them? Then, while they contend with our flying friends, we can sneak in and search for the bracelet. I'm afraid I must ask you that you collect the of course. While you see to that, I'll go and procure the remaining ingredients. I gotta go get the poop for some horny dragons. Before you say anything, I do not ask this because of any aversion to feces. It would simply be easier for me to find specific species of wild plants we require. Sure. Here, take this pouch, see it filled, and I will handle the rest. We're gonna get some horny dragon shit. Well, I guess it's not horny dragon shit. It is. It's mimicking the female in heat, right? I don't know. Anyway, here's Wonderwall. Hey, where you all shit at? Where's your shit pot? Where is it? Where you guys should do the shitted? I don't want to kill you, I just want your shit. No shit. No, I don't wanna. You know what, we're gonna have to anyway. Where's the poop robin? Now I gotta carry this pouch with me. While on a horse and it's jumbling around. Nope. Nope. Get away from me, horny rhino. Girl, did you go get the stuff or no? You're in the same spot. Here, take your poop. My fat cat's over it. All it's up to is to mix the feces with tumble claw fibers, dried palate tender root, and a generous helping of animal fat. Come, let's go back to that place with the stuff and the things. No, it's fine. To uncover this area. And actually, dude, look at the butt muscles on this freaking this unicorn. That's crazy. What do you have? Anything cute? Dude, I do need to work on my other stuff later. Try not to get distracted. I don't know what he's trying to say. Roger, roger. Listen. I don't want trouble. Just let me in. You're over here? You are. Everything is ready. Time to set our plan into motion. Okay, let me take care of my plate really quick. Touch P. Cause she's laying behind me. Both of them are laying behind me. I'm afraid to try and get the camera to work because I don't know if it's gonna freeze my whole thing, but yeah. Ma'am, you were being all cutesy and now you just moved. Here. Look at that handsome little gentleman over there. And then this little poop decided to move. There's cute little gentleman. I think I still have food. I do. I have my GURPS. Let me eat my GURPS. Get my bonus. Fair number appear to be gathered inside. Now's our chance. You blew to get home so you can work on your weapon. You left the house? Toss it into the bonfire in the middle of town. Oh, they will come soon after. This should be entertaining. Also phrasing. Phrasing? None the wiser. me. Let me throw poop in your bonfire. Now, back to throwing poop in the bonfire. Why are screenshots failing? I hear screenshots failing. Ew. Ew, what's that smell? Ugh, that reeks. What did you put in the fire? Wasn't me, I swear. Bitch, 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 argue, 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 blah, blah, blah. Oh, did something die? Oh, is that him? Someone explain that ungodly stench to me? It was this guy. The guy in the beginning. Yeah, I know, that's my face too. I'm mad. Oh, shitty booty ass, yeah. Boss? It's a. The horn dogs are coming!
This idea is dildos.
So the smokes, what drew them here? I swear, when I find out who did this, oh, you're about to find out. I'm about to whoop your ass. I'm about to beat that ass. With my little hat on, with my little flower on my hat, and my little ears, and my little choker. I say our friends have stirred up enough trouble. Time to retrieve the bracelet. About to whoop that ass. Hey, what's going on? Hey, what's going on out there? I'm still in here in case you've forgotten. Sit tight, we'll be right back for you. What? You gotta get me out of here now! They're gonna kill me! I'm begging you, please! Shh! They'll hear you. Oh, man. All you see is bunny person. Shit! Who was that? Oh man, you pussy ass bitch, get your ass back here. Hey, are you gonna help me or what? The bracelet must wait. Let's break him out and withdraw for now. No, let's let him sit in there. Fuck that kid. Fuck that kid. Stupid head. All that effort and not to show for it. Sorry about that. But damn, I didn't think anyone would have the balls to take on the vulture. No need to apologize. We were planning to save you eventually. Really? I don't even know who you are. You secret admirers of mine or something? Hey, I'm just having fun with you, but I do appreciate the help. This man they call the Vulture, I've seen his face before. Yeah, when we first walked in. Was he not the officer you confronted in town? The one and the same. When he's not masquerading as a gang leader, he serves as the deputy chief of the Dust Watch. That would explain why bandits are so confident they can avoid capture. You're trying to get back something that Vulture stole, right? Let me help. It's the least I can do after you bailed me out there. I skipped 2 lines, it's fine. We can go together. I've got a score to settle with him myself. I doubt that you do, but we need to know what it is first. Will you tell us? I don't doubt that you do, but we need to know what it is first. Will you tell us? Right, so those bandits at the they're called the Daybreakers, and it was me and my friends that founded the group. But it wasn't a gang of cutthroats, not back then. We just wanted to protect people that couldn't protect themselves. Kids being harassed by bullies, workers being exploited by the mining concerns, folks who needed help to even the odds. That was 3 years ago, and whenever we found someone scheming in the shadows, we settled matters the best way we knew how, with a duel. I see. By the old laws, anyone who loses in a duel must be held to account for their crimes, even those in positions of authority. And we made damn sure they did, every time. But before we knew it, our small band of friends commanded a force to be reckoned with. Then, about a year ago, the Vulture and his thugs showed up. They got the better of us and took over the Daybreakers. Everyone was afraid of him, so they did his bidding without question. But it was when he showed them how he could make a fortune easily, that was when he really won them over. Now the Daybreakers is nothing but a bunch of bandits and cutthroats who prey on people it was created to protect. I talked it over with my friends, and we all agreed the only way to stop him was to challenge him to a duel. And he accepted. I still remember how he gloated that he'd win. But when the day came, he showed up with the Dust Watch and had my friends arrested and charged of robbery. As if that wasn't enough, he set their bail at a price no one could ever hope to pay. With them locked away, there was no one left to help me. None of my old friends from the Daybreakers, and certainly not the Dust Watch. That's why you were ready to challenge him in the middle of town. I was, until the guy with the spear stopped me. No sooner had I stepped out of town than the Vulture's minions caught me by surprise. It took me prisoner, and well, you know the rest. He said the Dust Watch would be of no help. Are they all working for the Vulture, then? No, not all of them. The sheriff, he's as honest as they come, a staunch keeper of peace. Problem is, he's a little too trusting and doesn't suspect a thing. If it were my word against the deputy chiefs, who do you think he'd believe? Why are you questioning? I don't understand. Why put your hands up? Sorry, I have friends texting me about the gorge weekend. Well, if he knows where this vulture keeps his spoils, perhaps then he can help us recover Namika's bracelet. What do you think? For what it's worth, I have a plan, but I can't do it alone. A plan? I'll ask that you hear me out, but not here. I'll be waiting for you at the springs. I guess we can decide on what to do after he gives us the pitch. This little girl right now. Good, you're here. This is where he hides his loot. I expect he'll show up soon. We get a wild banana blend. We get a smoothie for our quest. Well, look who it is. Storing stolen goods here seems risky, but I suppose it's an option for someone with this authority. Yeah, he moves his spoils in cerulean barrels, where no one would think to look. They're mixed in with regular shipments full of fuel from Tuliolao. I've heard that name a million times, I still can't pronounce it. Where they're sold off. You said he stole a bracelet of yours, right? If he knows you're on his tail, chances are he'd be eager to get what he can for it. But I doubt he trusts a lackey with that business, given the provenance of the piece. And I accidentally clicked. I wasn't sure what to make of you after that, but I'm so glad to see you're more than an impulsive child. Oh, well, not my finest hour, I'll admit. Yeah. There's a lesson in that. The vulture is a slippery bastard. If we're going to catch him, we need to back him into a corner with hard evidence. That's my plan. First, we need to lure him away from here. For that, I need one of you to help me. This will buy time for the other to search the barrels for any stolen goods. And using that will expose him as a criminal. There's no way to tell if he's carrying the bracelet, but regardless, there'll be time enough to find it once he's behind bars. But he won't simply feign innocence? Oh, he'll try, and that's when I'll challenge him to a duel. A duel? That approach didn't work out so well with your friends, as I recall. True, but unlike before, I'll challenge him in front of the whole town. That way he won't be able to wriggle out of it like before. Every man, woman, child of the wilds understands the importance of duels and the old laws. The deputy chief would never disgrace himself by refusing. Wouldn't you be breaking the law by using a firearm in town? It's not as if we're using live rounds, but it's a risk I'm willing to take. What's important is that I get him to duel with as many witnesses as possible. When he loses, and he will lose, that'll be the end of the vulture. The plan is not without flaws, but what do you think? I say let him have his duel. Thanks. I was sure was lucky running into the two of you. You won't regret this, I promise. If you're satisfied, then so am I. I knew I could count on you. I was seen in town, so it's probably best I stay and search the barrels. Then you're with me. Tell the vulture I tried to rob you, but you managed to overpower me. Even if he suspects the trap, he won't be able to resist taking the bait. You'll want to buy your friend as much time as possible and make your way over. Once you've got the vulture there, I'll take care of the rest. All right then, let's get to it. Well. Well. What do you say, Francis? He's leaving me in a minute. Oh, they're trying to figure out who did it. Then there's that brat. It's past time I dealt with him. Oblivious to your presence, a gentle poke will get his attention. I see you. I see you. I freaking love that mount. It's so good. Oh, somebody else got their gay ass unicorn over here too. Hey, what's this? Not familiar face in these parts. Ahem. You have need of the dust watch, miss? Oh my god! I just been dropped. I've been robbed by that boy. Come help me! Come help me! So desperate was he to see his friends free from prison, he turned into a life of crime. How awful. Yeah, my sincerest thanks, miss. Might I trouble you to take me to him? You have to escort. Come on. I gotta escort his ass. I see you. I see you. Your chocobo's pretty. Yeah, you're pretty. You got a ball gag decoration. Nice. He's decorating all the weapons. It's so cool. Now that this is an appropriate time for me to play tour guide, but if you insist, Springs is home to a thriving cerulean mining industry. The prospect of easy coin has attracted some undesirables, though. Like you. You're the undesirable, you bitch. Let's go. You bitch. Is this the place? I don't see him. Whoops, silly me. I'm going. I'm just some silly little girl that got herself robbed, but then beat the shit out of the robber. Tee. Oh my goodness, what mount is that? Okay, while the ads are playing, I'm gonna AFK right here. Hope I don't die. And refill my water. Oh baby girly. Baby girly. So chunky. treat bot is refilled and I forgot my water in the kitchen. Okay. I believe ads are done. Ads are done. That's why the cerulean fields. These fields, there's gold in these fields. Blue gold. Best be wary of the beasts in these parts. They prefer to snack on ceruleum, but for you, I reckon they make an exception. How dare you? How dare you? Oh, let me refill the tree pot on the app. Update. Tree bot reloaded. There we go. Does this never get fixed again? Oh, hold please. I had a picture of the kitties and I don't know. This one. You say I'm a whole snack? It's because I'm a cat. I bet you. He seems the type. I just lure one of the bombs to him and just let it explode on him. No. And then take the bracelet. No, we can't. Oh, maybe. Oh man, he moved out of it. Are you streaming today, lady? Assuming like around your usual time of like 2. Is this the place then? Sorry, I'm learning my way around. Oh, nice. Some sort of joke? Of all the, let's keep moving. I'm sorry, I'm just some stupid little girl. I don't know where I'm going. I'm new around these parts. Tee. Tee. You want to see a whole snack. That's a whole snack. Who is waiting for her snack. Also, that cable she's laying on is what connects my drums to the mixer, so ignore it. All my other stuff I gotta organize, ignore that too. Just don't look at it. Look at the baby. Look at the baby. Even though I just gave her the treatsies, she still wants more. She's so attentive now. What I should do is... That's better. Excuse me. Doesn't this thing know I'm busy? No, she's under my desk. Go over there. Excuse me. I'll put that right over here. Actually. I'll go right up this way. Bam. Girl. She's little goobs. Okay. Ma'am. Ma'am, where are you going? She's right here. Baby. What are you doing? What are you doing? Ma'am. Don't want to be that close to my chair. Come on. Go that way. Don't want to be that close to my chair. I mainly just tried not to point it towards Steve's room either. This better be the place. Ah, now I remember. My patience is wearing awfully thin, miss. If he isn't at the next place we stop, I may be forced to do something you and I would both dearly regret. Excuse me? Was that a threat? Bitch, you don't fucking know who, you don't know who I am. You don't know me. Clearly, you don't know me. What is that? Oh my god. And we have a sticker party. So if you guys want to spam stickers, now is the time to slap stickers all over the screen. That's crazy. Chris. You better be the place of my daughter especially cleaned. You better be the place of my daughter especially cleaned laundry and put it in a hamper she throws on the couch to which my cat has lain over. Chris, thank you for the 2,000 bits. Chris has been popping off lately. I appreciate all the support, Chris. I really do. How's your new apartment? New apartment still doing good? All of your clothes are covered in cat hair? Yep. That makes all the senses. Oh, did I leave my water right there? I think I left my water right there. I don't know if Steve brought it. Chris, thank you for the 2,000 bits. You psychopath. And again for gifting a year sub to Light Bright down there. Oh, that is a I'm not gonna mess with. I just want to unlock this little area. There we go. Thank you. listen, can you tell your baby that I said Can you relay it to that to her, please? Thank you. She doesn't deserve it. It's not her fault that the clothes were there. Unless you'd rather I feed you one raw, needles and all. Cut the chit chat. But tell me about them. Small talk. Hurry up already. Ask again. Oh, okay. Fine. Chris, thank you again. I don't know what I've done to deserve it, but I appreciate all your support lately. I don't know why, but I appreciate you. Thank you. Oh, I clicked on my fat cat. My bad. I'm just a stupid woman. All right, where is he? Oh, you about to find out? I don't see him anywhere. Where is Zakawa? Tell me where he is, or I'll bury you in some grave. Goodness me, where could he have gone? Oh, now he angry with his little bedazzled outfit. That's it. I've had it with these games. I've had it with you. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? I'm the motherfucking warrior of light. What are you gonna do? Spicy danger bongos. If you wanna place me under arrest, you better work a little harder. Let's go. You'll be begging for a cell by the time I'm done with you. Do it.
Wahoote! Finally caught up to me, I see.
Well, well, if it isn't our young outlaw. You've taken up stealing, I'm told. Can't say I'm surprised about that, but I am surprised that you'd offer yourself up to be arrested.
Sorry to disappoint, but you're the one who's going to answer for their crimes today.
Uno reverse. Well.
Hey, that's my jewelry.
And my bag! So you found the stolen goods. That's fine work.
This barrel was at Shishanawetsi Springs, mixed in with others bound for Tuliyola.
Shishanawetsi. That's how you pronounce
The
it.
Landsguard would
I'll
have
not
presumed
forget
it
it.
part of the regular
I'll not forget it.
cerulean
I will
shipments
forget
and
it.
waved it through. And once it reached its destination, it would have been retrieved, and its contents sold for coin.
The audacity. Do we know who's behind this?
As fortune would have it, I spied the leader of this operation being handed one of the stolen items. A bracelet, which Vau Wuklamat had intended for her nursemaid, Namika.
It was from the Vow of Resolve?
Oh, you've seen
You
it
fuck,
then?
dude.
No, no, never. And if I knew who had it, I would have arrested the scoundrel.
You would have had to arrest yourself. This is very Star Trek 6. Arrest yourself.
What's the meaning of this, Wuhute?
It's a setup, sir. I have the bracelet, yes, but I only because I found it. I swear. They're the real criminals. They concocted this scheme to frame me, so they could get me out of the picture.
If you feel your honor's at stake, there's always the old-fashioned way. The law which folks have used to settle their differences for generations.
A
You
duel.
don't mean...
A duel.
Wuhute, I challenge you to a duel.
Yeah.
The winner is right, the loser is wrong. Doesn't get simpler than that.
Yeah, have at it. Let your pistols do the talking. Please, do you honestly believe you can goad me into playing your game?
You refuse then? Huh. A baby alpaca's got more fight than you.
Everybody's watching. Everybody's looking.
All right, boy. But remember, you asked for this. Come on, Zekawa! Give him what for!
Shouldn't we stop him, Chief? Even if it's just rubber bullets, we're in the middle of town.
Be quiet. Just watch.
Oh, the tumbleweed's a paid actor. The sandstorm's a paid actor.
Oh, you little shit!
Looks like you've gotten slow in your old age, Vulture.
You and I are going to have a long talk.
Hell yeah. Start crying. Start crying now. Start crying. Because you know you want to. Cry, little baby.
I apologize for dueling in the middle of town. If you want to lock me up, then lock me up. But please, let my friends go. They've done nothing wrong.
You drew your gun within town limits. But Wihute drew first. Far as I'm concerned, you acted in self-defense.
Hell
You're
yeah.
free to go. As are your friends.
Justice is served.
Ah, you're not such a bad guy after all.
Just a man of the wilds, like you. But to think that Wihute had taken control of the Daybreakers, it pains me that it happened right under my nose.
What are you gonna do about his crew? Some of them are still in Tonatenui.
Those who have broken the law will be taken into custody. But those who haven't will be given the chance to resume walking the straight and narrow.
That's good.
What about you, Zekwa? What do you intend to do now?
Why, what I've always done. Protect the weak and help the helpless. The old-fashioned way.
Here, this was Vawuklamat's gift for someone, wasn't it?
Thank you.
Yes, a person very dear to her.
I suppose this is where we go our separate ways. My thanks again for your help apprehending the vulture.
Ended up being rather more complicated than expected, but all is well that ends well. Phew, it's finally over. I couldn't have brought him to justice without your help. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. With this wild banana blend smoothie. Are we not friends? What the heck? I didn't realize that. That's stupid. At least we are now. Is that what you were waiting for? Oh, what is this? It's a chandelier. That's cool as heck. Now that we have the bracelet, let us return to the springs. Will you be staying there long? I'd like to give you a proper thanks after I find my friends. We weren't planning on it, but there's no need to rush. We'll see you at the springs then. Poopity poopity poop. Okay. I need to grab Blue Quest. Hello. Say, aren't you the one who was stirring up a fuss in town not long ago? I could use a capable hand like yours if you'd be willing to lend it. My name is Tonzo Zohi. I'm not from here, truth be told. I live in, no. But I am here visiting my grandson. I was excited to see him after so long, but then I spied him dealing with some unsavory looking men exchanging unusually large sums of money. I confronted him about what I saw, but he'll say little more than it's just a misunderstanding, then grumble as he changes the subject. I realize this is sudden, but could you see if there's anything that can be done to help him? He's in trouble, I just know it. Oh, a weight's been lifted off my heart. Bless you, miss. His name is Tikwa. Yeah, whatever. Last I saw him, he was heading inside this here saloon. Oh. Cat pulled over his face to cover those bruises. Most like, you can't miss him. Oh, they've been beating him up? Oh, look at these people. Alright, with ads playing, we'll hold off on that. I'm gonna get up and stretch. Everybody get up and stretch. Ads are playing. I'll be right back. And then for 5 whole biddies, you two can help a starving little baby get her treats. Next to her comfort treat bot. I'll be right back. Haha! Is mine. I got the treat. She was waiting for it to drop. Here, I'll put the lazy butthole up here. Yeah. Okay, ads are done. Okay, let's find this guy. New face in town, eh? What can I do for you? Thinks I'm in trouble, does he? There he goes, jumping to conclusions as usual. I thought it'd be less of a hassle if I didn't tell him. Truth is, I've been helping other folk in town with their money troubles. Matter of fact, the man you saw leaving just moments ago was one of my clients. I should probably explain from the beginning. My work involves loaning gil to folks having trouble with coin for one reason or another. There's a reason I don't lend them Pell, but I'll get to that in a moment. My family's lived here long before there was even a town here. But then people moved in and then started expanding. Before long, Kameka's family approached us about selling our land. It was around this time when trade overseas was gaining in popularity. I had it on good authority that gil was on its way to becoming more common currency here in the wilds, but then I decided to sell the land for gil, use those funds to start my business. Sure enough, everything went as expected and business is starting to do well. It's not without its troubles, seeing as money is involved, but I never lend anyone never lend to any unsavory types. Why not simply explain all this to your grandfather? The whole point of me keeping it quiet was so I wouldn't make him worry. Seems my silence only made things worse. Yeah, he found himself in a real tight corner once. Gil's what got him there. Now he wants nothing to do with the stuff. When I told him about my idea to sell the land, the moment Gil came out of my mouth, his whole mood turned sour. He said he put everything in my name, and whatever happens after that is on me. It's not exactly easy to bring up with my work. It's not exactly easy to bring up my work when it involves the one thing he seems to hate more than anything. But maybe it's time I change that. This job does more than just put food on the table. I'm able to help people, help this town, but how do I get him to see that? I've got it. You're going to come with me and watch me work. Grandpa won't hear anything I have to say if it involves Guild, but he might come around to first-hand account for a first-hand account from you. So come and see what my good work. Come and see what good my work does, and how I help the people here. He did send you here to help me, didn't he? I promise to make it worth your while. She's such a goobs. Ma'am. Ma'am. Okay. Alright then, before we get started, I should probably know who it is I'm working with. Nobody knows who the Warrior of Light is? I had a pretty bad accident on the job a while back. He had no money for treatment or anything, or much of anything, really, so I loaned him the guild he needed to get on his feet. The guild he needed to get on his feet. But now it's well past his time he returns what he owes and has not said a word. There's been time enough for him to not only return back to work, but also receive his wages, several times in fact. He usually comes here into town when he's not working, and his shift ends soon. Meet me just outside of town. If we're lucky, we'll catch him just as he arrives. There's a fate right here. make it a little bit easier. Oh, there's an Aether up there. You're here for the money? I was gonna pay, honest. I just mixed up the dates. Can we try and settle this later? I'm busy. I know you're lying, and you're not going anywhere until you can look me in the eye and tell me why you're late paying me back. He's obviously hiding something, but I'm not sure where to, sir, your macros, sir, your macros are invading free company chat, sir. I don't suppose there's anything you can do to persuade him. Maybe a little flex will show him we're serious. That'll tell him we're serious right there. Yegads, look at those arms and those absurdly hardened neck muscles. Fine, fine. Just put all of that away. Okay. It's all here, and with interest. If you had the money, why go through all the trouble of avoiding me? When I was still on the mend, my lady friend took really good care of me, see? I wanted to buy her something fancy to thank her, and well... I understand, really I do. But if you really want to make her happy, you need to get your life together. I'm willing to give you a loan one last time, but we're gonna have to have a long talk about how you manage your savings first. You're right. What good am I to her if I'm out on the street without a Gil or even a Pell to my name? I'll give some thought and we can talk later. Can't blame him for wanting to show his appreciation to a loved one, but it's no excuse to get carried away with his spending. So what do you think of my job? The money I loaned him paid for his treatment and supported him through his recovery. That has to count for something, right? Still not convinced. Well, there's always our next client. When you're ready, we can be on our way. Okay, we're gonna come back to that. Bye! I got places to be. I got stuff to do and places to be. I got another quest to do over here too. Nor, leave me alone. Nor. You get your little whiskers out of here. This way. it didn't matter which way I went. Why are you yelling at me, dear? You give me Aether. Welcome, traveler. I wonder if while you're out exploring, you might be able to do me a small favor. There's a cave network nearby where my daughter has gone off to offer her prayers, but she's forgotten the all-important fish oil candle. I would take it to her myself if it weren't for this terrible pain in my foot. Oh, it hurts something fierce, it does. Do you think you could give her this candle for me? Oh man. They finished it already. I didn't get to drop any off. That was silly to not just go drop one off that I had. Excuse me, no, nor. Do not want. Nor, thank you. Now, how do I get... Oh, it's down this way. Let's see if I can avoid these guys again, too. Baby girly. They're such little cutie pies. They're right behind me. Both of them. Where am I going? Something I can help you with? You forgot your candle. You came all this way to deliver this? I'm awful grateful to you and to my mom for realizing I'd forgotten to bring a candle. You see, these caverns are sacred ground, and whenever we come to pray to our ancestors and the more recently deceased, these flames provide a living way to commune with the dead. And thanks to you, I can light a candle of my own and say a little prayer. I got it right behind me. Since you're here, maybe you could stand before the flame and offer a few words to your departed beloved ones. It don't matter where you're from. All the spirits are welcome here, living or dead. Yeah, I got it. It was right back here. Stuff. Oh, that sucks. Yeah. Welcome back. I'm guessing you're able to find my daughter, no doubt, in her usual spot. She never was one to do things the easy way. You know, as much of a stickler for traditions as she is, she actually works for the railroad company. Still, I got to hand it to her. She manages to work towards a promising future without losing sight of her roots. I sure am proud of her, but don't tell her I said that, will you? Wouldn't want her to get a big head or nothing. Well, I'd say me and that daughter of mine have taken up enough of your time, but it was awful nice meeting you. Thanks a million for helping us out. Heck yeah. You know they're great. Can't set up this way. Dang it, my sneeze went away. Continuing. Yeah, I mostly just make sure that I'm getting the Aether quests done at least. Your bracelet. You're holding nothing, but your bracelet's there. My bracelet, thank you. Thank you so much. This is more than just a gift. It's part of me that I could never hope to replace. Truly, Wook is blessed to have such devoted friends. Well, I wouldn't put it quite that way. I prefer to think of us more as long-standing acquaintances. Regardless of how you choose to describe it, there's no denying the depth of your bond, though I'm sure you'll continue to do so. Can't say I'm surprised the deputy chief turned out to be the bandits' leader. I always knew something wasn't right about him. Easy claim to make with the gift of hindsight. There you are. The real Daybreakers have arrived. Heck yeah, they're out of jail. I'd like you to meet my two friends. Quakana and Leween? If it wasn't for you believing in Zakoa, and doing what you did, we'd still be locked up. You have no idea how satisfying it was to see that bastard put behind bars. We never gave up hope that Zakawa would find a way to get us out. He always was the best of the Daybreakers. Glad he was able to convince you to go along with his plan. Unfortunately, our group is smaller now, and lacking in strength besides. Some outlaws might see us as an easy target. Even so, if anyone should give the Dust Watch the slip, the Daybreakers will be there. We'll train night and day, so no one will get the better of us ever again. Isn't that right? Yeah. Right, and you'll teach us how to draw your pistols so fast, won't you? Well, we won't need a duel if all goes as it should. But on the off chance it doesn't, we'd best make sure everyone can match or beat my speed. We owe you a great debt, and one of these days I'll be sure to repay it. On that, you have my word. Until we meet again. Bye! Bye! As I'll be here a while, though, do let me know if there's any way I can be of assistance. Were you not planning to take the train home? Oh, train service has been suspended, didn't I tell you? Oh, great. You mentioned no such thing. Something about the tracks being damaged in the last quake. The tunnel was closed as well. An earthquake? It must have happened when we were still down south. There have been quite a few tremors of late, and rather large ones struck not long before you two arrived. I can only hope no one was hurt. I wonder if it's the mining and not just regular earthquakes. It's gotta be the mining. At any rate, if you want to know when service will resume, you can speak with the station master yourself. Let's do that. The station's just over there. I would assume that that's what it is. Let's go, Francis. It seems people aren't too happy about the train delays.
I'm so sorry, but we're not sure when the train will be running again.
You've got to be joking. Of all the places to get stuck at on the way.
He's got the bedazzled chaps too. Poor guy's probably been berated all day.
Please don't tell me you've come to complain too.
We heard that the earthquake had caused disruptions and wanted to ask when operations would resume. But I see that it will be a while yet.
I'm afraid so. Too few hands for too much work. It's time-consuming enough to inspect the tracks after every quake, but this last one we got after the succession ceremony was massive. Made a mess of a whole bunch of railroad ties.
The succession ceremony? We would have been in Tuliolal at the time.
Yep.
If it was as violent as you say, we should have felt it as well.
I have to admit, it was a touch strange, having seen my fair share of tremors. If I had to describe it, it felt more like the rumbling from an explosion.
Is there anything I can do to help?
It's gotta be the mining.
Seriously? You're offering to help?
What about you, my friend? If you'd rather strike out on your own, I understand.
Though, if you were willing to lend us a hand too, we'd be truly tremendously grateful. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm Shenza, by the way. Pleasure to make your acquaintance. If you would please step inside, I can introduce you to everyone.
Sorry for dragging you into this.
No, you're not. It's fine. Don't lie to me like that.
There they are. That's them, the two volunteers. Walika is our station master, and over there is our top driver, Nitoikwe. And this grizzled mug is Zapia, an engineer who joined around the same time as me.
Much obliged for the help. I'll make it worth your while, I promise.
Cute.
Something the matter?
Trolleys? They're fine, I suppose, but they're no match for our cerulean-powered engine.
She's absolutely glorious, let me tell you. If you'd like to bask in her beauty, well, you should visit the depot behind the platform.
Right then. What I'd like you two to do is help us procure timber. We'll be using it to fashion new railroad ties, so it needs to be the strongest stuff we can get. In these parts, that means the trees in the Piatayonan Plain. It is Hetsaro territory, though, so we need to get their permission first. Come on, no time to waste.
Cute. Ads are playing right now. I will get up and stretch. I'm trying to do that during ads, so I will be right back. And not do anything during ads. So give me a second. By the time I get back, refill my water's pretty good. Be right back.